All right, I believe it's just going live right now, starting the live. All right, I believe we're live now.
Okay, so take a deep breath with me. So, welcome everybody. You might notice that I have this strip on my nose, and you're probably wondering what's going on there. So, let me clarify before we begin. In order to think and grow rich, we must be able to think better. And as I understand, I wear this at nighttime so I can breathe better while I'm asleep, and apparently, so I don't snore. Although, obviously, I can't hear myself. And during the daytime, I've started using it to get more oxygen into my brain so I can think better and be more effective. So, in the line of think and grow rich, I think it's definitely relevant. Now, with that being said, we're on week number 3 of our weekly live masterminds, which right now you're likely watching in the Think and Grow Rich Mastermind group on Facebook. Now, as you jump onto the live, or if you're watching this as a recording, please stick in hashtag replay and consider sharing this video on your personal timeline. If you get any value from the call, it's quite possible that other people in your network might as well. And one of the beautiful things about masterminding is that we can create associations. So whenever we're masterminding with people that inspire us, it's quite often that they will inspire other people that we know. And it might create a conversation where you get a chance to build value in someone else's world and to help someone out and lend a helping hand. So it's never a bad thing. So definitely consider hitting the share button and sharing this out there. That being said, we are on chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the chapter on desire from Think and Grow Rich. And this is an opportunity for us to delve a little bit deeper. Last week and the week before, we were taking little excerpts from the first paragraph and the foreword, and we were masterminding around that. So while I happen to be the first person speaking, that doesn't mean that the call has anything to do with me. In fact, I'm not presenting myself as an expert here in any way, shape, or form. I am a fan of Napoleon Hill and a fan of Think and Grow Rich, and aspire to think and grow rich, ideally with you. So what we're looking to do here is to bring people together to learn to raise our vibration so that we may think and grow rich together. So that's really the function of what we're doing here. That being said, my name is Lloyd. I'm here in Ireland on the East Coast. I'm at home and I have small children in the house. So it's quite possible that one of them is going to kick the door open here and disturb me while I'm speaking. So if that happens, apologies. I did forewarn you. Now, we have people on the call here from all across the planet in lots of different time zones in a couple of different countries. And you're more than welcome. In the post for this video, you will have seen that there's a link. And if you click that link, it will bring you into the Zoom waiting room. So you can actually join and contribute right here on the call if you wish. Now, you can hear the information and you'll get so much from it. If you come and interact with us and share your thoughts live, you're going to get a lot more from this material, and it's going to have a bigger impact on your life. And if you integrate it into your daily habits and thoughts and emotions, it's quite likely that it'll move you in the direction of your goals. So that being said, I am going to stop talking. I might come back in later at some point. But for the moment, I'm going to pass you over to my co-host here, Mr. Mark Santos. So let me just tell you a little bit about Mark. Mark is an incredible human being, first of all. He's in fact the reason why we're all here. Mark, many years ago, recognized that people across the planet are going to need to find a way to communicate with one another and to find one another when they're seeking to raise the vibration of their consciousness. And so he's really interested in the technology of that, and he's a programmer as well. So he actually has the skill set required to bring everybody together, and he built a platform which you can see a little bit about here, called Noble Goman. And we are all members of that group. And there are, of course, guests going to be coming on the call who are not, who are just looking to share their value in relation to this topic. And everybody is welcome. Mark created this platform because he couldn't find one. I'm sure Mark would have preferred saving all of that time and effort that it took him to build a platform in the first place to just log on and subscribe to a platform that did exactly what we're doing. But it didn't exist. So he had to build it. So we're very fortunate that he has that skill set, because I most certainly don't. So if it was up to me, nobody would be here. Okay. It's not because I wouldn't be able to build it. So, he's a very well qualified individual. And I've been masterminding with Mark for the last 7 years, almost every day, thousands and thousands and thousands of deep thought and conversation. And I'm very grateful to now call him my friend. And he has a huge heart for helping people, as you'll see when he jumps in now. So over to you, Mark. And thank you very much for allowing me to open the room.
Yeah, thank you, Lloyd. I want to start by also acknowledging you, my friend, and really everybody here on the call, but specifically you, Lloyd, because we've been going on this journey now together for the last 7 years, working to expand our consciousness, working to expand our level of engagement, working to inspire others to do the same. And it's been a real pleasure and an honor. And I've seen the transformation in you, in your life. I've seen you create a family. I've seen you go above and beyond to support, your not only your family, your friends, your local community, but also all of us here on the call. In fact, all of us, with maybe the exception of Edit, would not know each other if it wasn't for your efforts. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I know we could probably sit here and talk all day about blowing up every single person. And I'd love to actually each week maybe introduce a new person on the call, because I think we're just surrounded by a group of really amazing people. And I just want to thank you all for taking the time to be here, to mastermind with us, to share your insights, to share your value, to share your understanding of this material. I've personally been studying this book since I was like 17 years old, right? And I'm just really excited to explore this further, because every time you read it, you get something new from it. And I'm just glad that we're all doing this together. So that being said, let's jump into it. Let's get going by going through the mastermind principles. I'd like to do a round robin with everybody again. And let's begin that process. How about with you, Wanda? If you don't mind starting us off, let's go with the first sentence and the first paragraph.
Okay, mastermind principles. I begin every mastermind meeting by reading these 7 mastermind principles. I release myself to the mastermind because I am stronger when I have others to help me.
Yanni, go for it.
I believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond my own.
Edit.
I understand. I understand that I will more easily create positive results in my life when I am open to looking at myself, my problems, and opportunities from another's point of view.
Beautiful. Thank you. Wolfgang.
I decide to release my desire totally in trust to the mastermind, and I'm open to accepting new possibilities.
Mr. Chambers.
I forgive. I forgive myself for mistakes I have made. I also forgive others who have hurt me in the past, so I can move forward into the future with a clean slate.
I ask the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, my desires, and I hear my mastermind partners supporting me in my fulfillment.
I accept. I know, relax, and accept, believing that the working power of the mastermind will respond to my every need. I am grateful knowing this is so.
Dedication and covenant. I now have a covenant in which it is agreed that the mastermind shall supply me with an abundance of all things necessary to live a success-filled and happy life.
I dedicate myself to be of maximum service to the world and my fellow human beings, to live in a manner that will set the highest example for others to follow, and to remain an open channel of God's will.
I go forth with a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy.
Excellent.
Mission statement. Noble Goldman International is a conscious, aware, and engaged global community of abundance and freedom creators.
Our mission is to create 1 million millionaires who are free from the time for money paradigm. We focus on creating multiple streams of income through masterminding, team building, and the effective utilization of the internet-based platforms.
The mastermind becomes an opportunity for self-mastery, where the self-transcendent shift from the me to the we, to the us, occurs. As congruence and engagement increases, the world's consciousness is then raised, one meaningful and inspired relationship at a time.
Hoorah. All right. Good stuff. Thank you all. Just to jump right into it, we talked a little bit this is where we left off last week. We left off on this paragraph. I want to zero in on just a quick recap, what we covered the last couple of weeks, because I think this is super critical and important. Thoughts are things. Thoughts become things. What are you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
These words are extraordinarily powerful. So we're going to get into today is all going to be about designing those thoughts to become things consciously. But I want to just recap. Thoughts are things. Mr. Chambers, you want to add something?
Yeah, very briefly, it's worth considering that if you don't have a structure or a plan in place, that you're going on default. And as a result, the default is your conditioning of the past, your childhood, etc. And typically, although not exclusively, is not hugely positive or empowering. I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I had to stop myself at about 10 a.m. I have an alarm that goes off that says, ground yourself. And I said it about 6 days ago, not long after we started this process. And it goes off twice a day. And every time it goes off in the middle of me doing something, and I have not stopped to ground myself. So anyway, I stopped to ground myself, and I realized that the thoughts that I was having were the thoughts of the person that I used to be, who I no longer desire to be. And it's most certainly not the thoughts of the person that's going to get or receive or be the way that is necessary in order to achieve the things that I have claimed are my goals. And so I think what's important to mention here is if we're to compare ourselves to an example which is currently outside of our reach, we can often compare ourselves, find ourselves lacking, and then judge ourselves. So the thing that I read there in the Mastermind principles was paraphrased in the Lord's Prayer of, forgive others as they commit trespasses against us, or something to that nature. We were talking about this yesterday, Mark. And instead of asking for forgiveness from other people, we should just give forgiveness, get into the mode of forgiveness, and forgiveness will also turn to us in the same manner as which we gave it out. So if we understand that thoughts are things, the only things we're going to get are in alignment with the thoughts we're thinking. And if we're not thinking the thoughts that are correct, we don't want to judge ourselves, right? We want to find a way to ground ourselves, take a pause, as Wolfgang here is what his goal is to take a conscious breath with everyone in humanity, all of humanity, for example, and to take that breath and then assess, hey, this is where I am now. And that's okay, because I can move away from that loop of thought towards something that's going to build me up and so on. So I've been having epiphanies every day since we started this process. So I just want to chime in there because it's easy sometimes to see people speaking, especially if they sound inspiring, right? I don't know if we do or not, but I would argue we probably do on some level. And looking at people and thinking, oh, it's easy for them to say because they have passed through this stage that I'm at, the listener. But in fact, there are days when I am at the very beginning of this process because I forget for a moment and I fall back into past patterns. So it's just something to be aware of, that everybody is a work in progress. So if you're listening to this and you're having a tough day, you're not the only one, and there is a way out of it. And so what we're going to discuss today, if I'm not mistaken, are the 6 steps, I would imagine. And so I'm looking forward to getting into that because it provides a plan and a step-by-step to move out of that energy towards what we want.
Yeah, thank you, Lloyd, for sharing that. And I just want to just add the thing that really excites me the most about what you just said is knowledge is useless unless it's applied to your life. Like if you're unable to complete the first sentence of the book, what's the purpose of reading the rest of it? So I'm just really grateful to hear you applying it, Lloyd, as I'm doing in my life. And I'm wondering if anybody else wants to share an application story, because these thoughts are extraordinarily powerful. What you're thinking becomes real. And skipping over that is missing the point of the entire book. Wolfgang, please share your thoughts.
Yeah, I would like to share my experience. My experience is that I think things, I not necessarily do something with them, and they still become real.
Mhm.
So I want to make the point that we don't even need to apply knowledge when it's our knowledge, when it's coming from a deeper desire, when it's there, it's still happening. So this is just experiences I made in my life, which is quite, how to say? Through the breathing, I make one experience. I need to do much less than I thought to do in the past. And I made one experience. I got much slower myself, but I literally had one part making myself not that important, made other people stepping in, and the contribution multiplied the efficiency of making it real. So somehow like that, these are my thoughts about it.
Thank you. Just to go a little deeper on that, uh, I'd like you to clarify a little bit, because I know that wisdom is the application of knowledge. And I believe what you're describing is transitioning from doing to being effortlessly. And I think that's a really important point in integrating, because thoughts become things and you can change what you're thinking just by thinking differently. So if you could expand on that a little bit about the transition rather from doing to being, because I think that's what you're really highlighting, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, maybe it is about me getting older. There is a wisdom not to do things rather than I need to do things. What doesn't mean I can be a very laid back person, and when there is things to be done, I can step in instantly and be full action. But versus earlier, I was more action, I think, than necessary. So there is, I heard one thing recently. Success is more about what you say no to than what you say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have a thought and I have an idea, it's not necessarily that it's me who need to do that. And there can be a fear that when I'm not doing it, that it doesn't happen, which makes me doing everything. And that is when I start going on everybody's nerve.
Yeah, complete. Thank you, Wolfgang, for clarifying. Thank you. I have some more thoughts on that, but I want to go to Wanda first, please.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. What comes to my mind, because it happened for me recently, where I would be at my desk working and I'd be saying, uh, like, what if there was a company and I described the company and the type of people that would be working there and how it would feel? What if there was an organization like this? I would love to be a part of that. And I didn't think that it existed. Well, I found out it does. So that is what I refer to as um, it's kind of like creation by default or creation that's not intentional. And I believe that what Napoleon Hill is talking about in the book in relation to thoughts become things, and thoughts are things, is that there is this creation by default. So we're thinking whatever we're thinking, and whatever we're thinking turns into things. And then there's what I have come to refer to as intentional creation using thoughts. And I believe that is inspired by a passionate, burning desire, a plan to achieve it, backed by persistence and faith that it will happen, no matter what. No matter what appears to be um, in the way, no matter what appears to be an obstacle or a setback. No, it's like this is going to happen. That's to me is intentional creation. And yeah, and so this is, Wolfgang mentioned knowing what to say no to or yes to. And I think it was you in another call we were on, Mark, where you said, when we know what our definitiveness of purpose is, then it becomes easy to know what to say no to and what to say yes to. If you don't have that, and I know because I've experienced this many, many times. Oh, somebody says something and it's like, oh, that sounds really exciting. I think I'm going to be a part of that. Okay. And then somebody else says something later on and I think, oh, wow, that sounds really exciting. I think I'm going to be, and that's literally how it feels and how it happens. Then I find myself involved in all these things. And then I say, what am I doing? Okay. So that really spoke to me And you know, it really settled in me internally that when I know what my definiteness of purpose is, then it becomes easy to know what to say no to and what to say yes to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That, I mean, we could mastermind on that topic alone for months. So I'm gonna avoid the temptation of jumping into that delightful journey. So I one point I'd just like to add to Wolfgang, what you were saying a moment ago about things being effortless. For me, it feels more like a spinning top, you know, a child's toy where you pull it and it spins and it rotates and it's just effortlessly gliding on the table in that moment. And it's this vortex of energy that's spinning. And a top functions best when it's undisturbed and it has the least amount of resistance. It's when we flick it or push it or, you know, engage with it or try to put force into it that the top starts to get wibbly wobbly and it loses momentum, right? And falls down on the table. So I think what you're describing, Wolfgang, is a center, it's finding your center of being and being that authentic version of yourself, that reason for being, that purpose that you're talking about, Wanda, in an effortless way, like a top spinning, versus this idea that I have to go and do and push, 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 push. And there's value to consistent, persistent effort. I'm just wanting to highlight that all the masters out there in the world all talk about the exact same experience, which is it can be effortless as well. And I think Napoleon Hill's challenging us to think in that way as well, that these obstacles that we're experiencing may in fact be incredible opportunities. They may in fact be incredible lessons. They may be exactly what it is we need in that present moment. And even just inviting that possibility into your life that everything that you're experiencing is you're experiencing exactly as it needs to be in the current state. And it changes when you change your thinking. Wolfgang.
I think this happens more often to everybody than we actually realize. And the issue is that it actually feels so easy that we are implemented with thoughts that actually that shouldn't be, that life needs to be hard, it needs to be effort. It comes to the point, if it's not hard, if you're not working hard, you're not even worth eating. So there is a lot of dimensions in many cultures, whatever is implemented, that we do a lot of things having that already to bring it out of balance. I just put it out there, and it's something what is about to be able to take, because it also feels pretty bodiless. It's so effortless that there is no tension or force on our body, physically, literally, that we literally get scared. There is a fear where we actually start interacting to feel something again. I just put it out there. It might be more often already in everybody's life who is here on the call or whoever is listening. And we actually do a lot to get out of it. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Wolfgang. And Mr. Chambers, and then we'll get on to today's verse here.
Yeah, thank you. So I should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to mention it now because we're only halfway-ish through. If you don't have a notepad and pen now while you're listening to this, I would suggest you write down these nuggets that people are coming up with, because I have a bunch of stuff written down here. I love that when we talk about thoughts are things, but actions are also things. Moving out of the way of the thoughts that are not in alignment with what you want is also a thing. It's also an action. Not taking any action is an action. Taking a deep breath and becoming conscious and stepping out of your own way, arguably, abundance is your birthright. If that's the case. Now, mind you, this wasn't written down in this part of the world in law until the 12th century in the Magna Carta, but leaving all that aside, the fact of the matter is that if it's our birthright, all we need to do is get out of the way with our ego and our desire to control and whatnot, and it will simply flow in as it always intended to do. So I remember reading a couple of years ago that it takes no more effort to step into the river that's flowing up to abundance, happiness, prosperity, than it is to stay in the river that's going down to suffering, pain, misery. All it is one step to the left. So oftentimes we feel, I don't know about you guys, but certainly I've felt this. I'm like, if there was just one thing that I could do, I wonder what that one thing is. And I think often it's just get out of the way of the thing. Like you might be having thoughts about I would like this, or maybe affirming it as true right now, but you're simultaneously getting in the way by trying to control the way in which it occurs. And we've often heard that if you give in one place, you don't necessarily receive it back from the same place. It may come from a completely unexpected place. So remember years ago when I was first immersed in this material sometime in 2014, I think it was. And, I'd said I want to go live in a hot country. I want to be rewarded for my work. I want to, be the one running a team, but not the owner of the company. I was very specific about that because I wasn't ready at that time, and so on. So I got an interview request from a proxy company in Argentina. And they wouldn't tell me who it was who wanted to interview me, which is really weird. So at the time I was thinking, this could be, maybe this is not a real job. Maybe I'm going to be kidnapped and my organs are going to be sold in South America somewhere or whatever. It was very weird. I really didn't know what to make of it, right? But I had sent the intention out that I wanted to go live somewhere warm and I wanted to be rewarded and honored for, all this. Anyway, it turns out that the person that was interviewing me was in San Diego. And they had a company in a high potential startup in Santiago, Chile. And they wanted to hire me as their marketing director. And I was just like a sales guy in Dublin. And I was like, why do they want to hire me? This is what I couldn't understand. As it turns out, it worked out well for them and it worked out well for me. And I ended up moving to that country and I lived in Chile for a year. It was an amazing experience. And all of the things I said I wanted were exactly what happened. But if I had maintained my cynicism, which was what me getting in the way, I never would have said yes. I never would have even entertained the email. I probably would never have replied, And if I hadn't thought to myself, maybe I deserve more than what I am or doing or getting at the time, I never would have even considered it as an opportunity, and they likely wouldn't have connected with me. And it was a piece of material that I created while I was doing this process that caught their attention, which encouraged them to get this proxy to reach out to me in the first place. So it is very important that we remember, like Wolfgang was saying, you know, you don't necessarily need to be doing something. You need to be thinking something and sitting with it in a receptive state, because whatever matches the thought will come looking for you, whether you go looking for it or not. And it's like it's naturally going to come looking for you. You just have to be ready when it arrives. You know? So
Yeah.
imagine like somebody comes to your door to bring you on a date, right? Or maybe, let's say for the ladies listening, right? Because typically that's what men are supposed to do. And they rock up and you're not ready. Like, is that going to be good? Is it going to maintain rapport? Does that sound like it's going to be a good evening? Or is everyone going to get bent out of shape by the time you finally emerge and you go off to wherever you're going? You want to be ready. It's the same if you have a job interview and they catch you an hour beforehand and you're totally not ready and you're all over the place. You haven't grounded yourself. You're not going to do the same thing. So you really do need to be ready when and maintain that thought and that vibration if you want to be magnetized to what you want, because it'll come. What you want wants you. Basically. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you. All right. So let's get into this. I think that the thought part of the equation we've covered for the last 3 weeks is really an introduction. And really, I think it's an introduction to the idea that thoughts are transmitting out into the world around you. And they're also creating the world that you're experiencing. But today, we're going to pivot into the riches part of the equation, which is setting up the receiver. How do you intend to receive the riches that you desire? And how do you intend, what riches do you desire? All right, so let's get into it. So this paragraph here, I think is fundamental and critical, which is every human being who reaches the age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it. Wishing will not bring riches, but desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession. That's a powerful word, obsession. Then planning definitive ways and means to acquire riches, and backing those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure, will bring riches. So I'd like to put it out to the mastermind here. What sticks out for you in this paragraph? What really resonates with you? Share a story, experiences, insights. I think this is extraordinarily powerful paragraph. All right. Anybody have any thoughts on this? How about we'll break it down? Who here desires riches? And what do you define as riches?
I mean, I can come in here, but I would rather hear everybody on the call jump in. There you go, Wanda. Jump in there. Go ahead.
All right. Money, money, money. Okay. I love money. I really love money, and I love cash, and I love holding it in my hand. And I didn't always feel that way. I used to resist it because I had some money beliefs that were, let's say, not very positive. And so what really excites me about becoming rich in the form of money, and of course, I'm not limited to that in terms of how rich is defined. But what that provides is the expansion of that in terms of what I can do, what I can build, how I can contribute, how I can give, and how that it expands not only my way of being and how and my lifestyle, which will be different than how I'm living my life presently. So it expands everything of that, but not just for me. I mean, I don't want to be rich, from a money perspective, so I can keep it all to myself. I really enjoy giving. And then I believe for myself that what also will naturally occur from that is I will become like a magnet for other people who have been observing and they say, hey, Rhonda, I want that too. How did you do it? And so that's another way to give. And so what really excites me about it is the transformation piece of it. I love money.
Thank you,
And
Wanda.
then like another piece of it that really resonates, or another idea that really resonates with me about money is that money is love.
That's a big one. I know a lot of people are going to struggle to understand that statement. Do you want to expand on what you mean by money is love? And then we'll go
Okay,
to
so
Yanni.
yeah. Okay, so what I mean when I say that is that money flows, from other people to me. I receive it as love and I give it as love. So it doesn't matter whether I'm paying, bills with it. I'm buying food, groceries, donating it, whatever it is. I give it as love and I receive it as love. So a really good example, I think, is, when we go to the grocery store and there's a person at the cash who takes, who receives the money, but the money doesn't sit in the till. It flows and it moves out into many different areas. And I think this as it's happening, it flows out into many different areas as the energy of love. So it helps to pay the salary for that person that's there and for other people that work in that particular uh, retail space. Uh, it helps to put food on someone's table. I mean, it's endless. And it's all very loving.
Yeah.
When you think like, okay, if I'm going to provide a meal for someone, I'm going to do that for someone or for a group of people. If that is an expression of love, everything in my mind, in my opinion, is love.
That's a really beautiful way to think. So thank you for sharing it with us. And I could not agree more. I think the grocery store is a beautiful example of that because it's so fundamental to all of our needs as human beings. And we show up with these credits we call money, and we're able to participate in that circulation. And I think it's what you're really highlighting is the beautiful aspect of money, and it's how it's exchanged between one person and the next, and how you're receiving it is a really important part of having a healthy desire for it, like and a healthy obsession versus an unhealthy obsession and a greedy perspective. So thank you so much for sharing that, Wanda. That's beautiful. Yanni, you have an idea you want to share. Please go ahead.
Yes. When I think of this, it's like I see myself when I was growing up. I was always surrounded with people that had money, with my mom, with my dad, when they took me to places. And I think that's when I started wishing, right? And I wanted to get to that level. But as I'm growing up, I resonated a lot with what Wanda said. The state of mind that having that desire for it to the way you accept it and give it away. And for me, how it's been showing up is that I wished it for so long and I saw some of it, but it was around me. But I think the planning for me started working when I started writing it down. And as I write my wants and needs, and it kind of starts playing around, and I start desiring it even more. And somehow one way or another, things just click. Um and I remember in 2020 when I first started my self journey of self discovery, everything just came to me like fast, and I couldn't understand how it all happened. But I was in this amazing, I think, love energy that whenever I thought something, it just came. And now that's when I started learning how I was able to do this consciously, and being able to make a path for myself in what way or aspect I want to give as well, because I felt I was receiving a lot. And I couldn't understand it. And being able to be that giver in that aspect, I always keep telling myself, people come to me for the moment kind of fun, like in a moment, but I want to be the type of rich I want to give. It's something that will help them for the long haul, and being able to understand that. um and I think little by little, my purpose has been has been, I think, showing to myself just by writing. I think for me, it's how that's my planning in on this paragraph that we were talking about. It's writing, and it's been becoming clear little by little, and I connect with people that just like yourselves that are helping me understand myself and where those desires come from. So that's my little
Beautiful, Yanni.
take.
Yeah, without question, the definitive plans are absolutely critical. And then the persistence in pursuing those plans with not recognizing failure is without a doubt fundamental to the journey. Like it's just what it is. And the part I really love is how do you get to the obsession? Because anything I get obsessed about, watch out, right? Obsession, it takes it to a whole other level. So if you can get obsessed with your definitive plans to acquire riches and you're persistent and you refuse to fail, like failure is just not even on the table, you absolutely succeed every single time. And I know that applies to Yanni. I know that applies to Wanda, Edit, Lloyd, and every other person listening in. Like these words are powerful. Mr. Chambers.
Yeah, thanks so much. First of all, Yanni, from the moment I first met you, all I could feel was love. So obviously the vibration that you're in is clearly demonstrated that the universe responds to that, since that's what the universe is made from. It's something I had to work on quite a lot, and I'm definitely not there yet. But I wasn't, I think, until I had children that I actually experienced the amount of love that my parents had for me. I didn't really understand what love felt like, even fully, until I had children, and you just look at their little faces, and there's no words to describe the love that you're surrounded by. And I'm quite confident that if we sat with that and allowed that to be our guide in our interactions with adults, that our lives would be a lot more favorable than they might otherwise be at the minute. And it's very interesting. When we look at children, we don't generally, well, certainly small children, we generally don't judge, because they're just such an open book and a plain slate, pure love. As we get older, we start to make judgments and we have expectations. But when they're really small, we don't have that. And with adults, we seem to create all sorts of expectations, most of which we don't communicate with those people. So therefore, they can never meet what we have not communicated. So adult interactions are also very entertaining and provide a lot of opportunity for growth, in my experience at least. Just coming back to what you had on the screen a minute ago, Mark, when people, I'm going to say, actually, I won't generalize, because that would make other people's minds like my mind, and that's likely not the case. So I'll speak from the first person instead. Historically, if I would have looked at the word riches, I would have had a knee-jerk reaction saying, that sounds like greed. Right? I grew up in a very Catholic country, even though I'm not a Catholic and I wasn't brought up Catholic, but I was, you're in that environment, right? And where rich people are like considered not ethical, just by the very fact that they're doing well in life, is sort of like a verification that they must be doing something bad and taking advantage of someone. That's just the way our history is in the country that I'm in. And when I hear the word obsession, I historically would immediately go to the negative. All right, thinking, what about all the other things in your life? What about your kids? What about this? What about that? Instead of thinking, getting obsessed with being in a state of pure love, how could that possibly be a bad thing? Right? Which is the opposite side of the coin that, for me, certainly up until relatively recently, was something that was happening in the back of my mind, and still does from time to time. Definite ways and means to acquire riches only come up when you have decided what you want, in my experience. So, we had a conversation recently about, 1,000 times bigger goal than I had originally anticipated. And when it's 1,000 times bigger, a daily goal, you start to think, well, what thinking would be required in order for that to be a reality? Because you can't think, person by person, because it's too big. It's not possible. So you need to start to think, okay, so how can I now organize people and resources and skills and talents and collaborate in order to make that possible? So, for example, this morning I had a banana for my breakfast. I live in Ireland. Bananas don't grow here. Okay. So, organized capital made it possible for me to eat a banana this morning. Somebody decided, hey, people in Europe can be convinced that they should eat a banana for breakfast. So therefore, we're going to go and contract an entire boat full or whatever of bananas and then ship them to this part of the world, because they'll eat them first thing in the morning. We'll make 200x on the bananas. But if somebody hadn't decided what will it take to ship millions of bananas to Europe, I would not have been eating a banana this morning. Right? So clearly, having a big enough goal and having will produce the conditions in the mind where definitive plans and ways will present themselves, because you're thinking differently. And if you ask anybody who's successful, they always say, if I went back, I would think bigger sooner. So wherever part you are in the journey of whatever you perceive success to be, now, when's the best time to do something? Right now. Right? Yeah, probably 20 years ago, but the next best time is right now. So when it comes to riches, then riches typically I would have thought were, like, think about dragons and gold. It's like, big mountains of gold is what I would have thought of as riches, right? And like, knights trying to kill the dragon type of thing. But in fact, now I realize that riches are things that distance you from uncomfortable decisions. That's what I consider riches in my mind anyway, which means that the circumstances happening in the world don't interfere with my self-determining of my life and how I, conduct myself and where I go and what school my children are going to go to or what food is available on the menu and all those types of things. That's what riches mean to me, the ability to make choices without restriction. And so that for me is how that turns up. Failure is an interesting one because, we have to, like, failure is inevitable if we're going to go after something big. But we can fail our way to success as long as we don't recognize failure as the end point of the journey. Then inevitably, and I mean literally anything that you do, if you do it consistently and persistently, and you have a good plan, and you really know why you want it and what you want to do with it, is inevitable. Literally, the universe is set up that way. And, I could sit here and say, I wish I knew this years ago, which is also true. But that's sort of irrelevant because I'm here now and this is the present. So, this is the point for anyone listening, when you watch this now or as a replay, to say, you know what? I could provide better for my family if I had access to resources. I could do more in my community if I had access to resources. If a tornado came through and took out the whole town and I had a bunch of cash, I could solve the problem in a heartbeat instead of getting at the back of the queue waiting for my free hot soup, right? Like everybody else in a disaster scenario. So a lot comes up for me just with that one thing alone, and it's I could spend months just rereading the same paragraph and still get something from it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lloyd, for that. And I think it's also super important to highlight that for everybody listening on in the call is riches. And Napoleon Hill repeatedly says this in the book. Riches are what you define riches as. It doesn't necessarily have to be money. Now, we are going to talk in the context of money a lot throughout this call, in no small part because a lot of people do have the blocks that you're referring to, Lloyd, related to money. That being said, physical health is a form of riches. If you have that, you're a very wealthy person, right? If you have good mental health and you know how to manage your thought world, that's an invaluable aspect of riches. And that could also be true for emotional health and well-being, family, friends, finance, your career, romance and intimacy. These are all subsections of your life that all can provide you with riches. So we can talk about money, but for everybody who has an issue specifically with money, that's a self-limiting belief that you put in place to prevent you from actually getting what you want, likely due to some social conditioning that's picked up somewhere along the line. I know it's happened to me. I know it's happened to almost, a huge percentage of the population out there. And that's in part why we're doing this call. because I'm not going to recognize failure in myself, and I'm not going to recognize failure in others either. Right? I don't accept that. I don't accept it in myself, and I don't accept it in others. And in no small part, it's because we just simply have to learn these lessons and see the challenges as incredible opportunities to create some definitive plans and get obsessed about having healthy families and having healthy communities and having a healthy body and a healthy mind, right? But also having a healthy bank account,
Yeah.
right? And healthy relationships in general. So, Yanni, please.
In my perspective, obsession has slowly been shown in my life. And my example will be with making money online, affiliate marketing. I remember, you all know, since 2021, I've been slowly getting obsessed with that. And I've tried so many things. And you guys saw me try so many things. But what I've been learning about myself, that I don't want to do it for the money. I want to do it for the freedom that gives me to be with my family, with my baby, and the service I can provide to others. And I feel with that, automatically the money will come. And not recognizing failure, because I've tried so many times. I think failure is a part of it, but not beating myself up because it didn't work out with this thing, the second or the third or the fourth thing. But I'm still going, and I'm still obsessed with. I'm slowly getting obsessed. I see my transition of that obsession of finding something that works for me, and my riches is that being able to have the time freedom for my baby. That's how I've been getting to know myself in this with this paragraph.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wanda, you get the last word. I'll share a brief closing statement and then we'll wrap it up for today because we're a little over time.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to just comment on the things that you were talking about that represent riches. However, it's, the focus isn't on the money. And as I heard you speaking, so we're talking about health. Well, health improves tremendously when you have money to buy the things to improve your health. Physical fitness is the same. Mental health is the same. So I heard all of those things as an expression of love. And so mental health, if I'm in a position where I can take myself on a vacation once a year, or I can go have explore some part of the world that I feel called to explore, that's taking care of my mental health. And that's just one of many, many, many examples. And, if someone has a family and they can take that family to Disneyland or whatever it is that they desire, that's also an expression of love. And you can't do those things without money. Unless, yeah, you could, but those opportunities are very few and far between. It's like, hey, yeah, you could win a trip, you know what I'm saying? But if you want to sit back in life and wait for that to happen, I don't think the journey's going to be as fun and enjoyable as it can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree more. I think just to give everybody a preview for the next couple of weeks, we're going to be diving into the actual implementation plans of this paragraph. That's what comes up next in this book. So for everybody out there that wants to participate, we're going to invite you to jump here onto the call and really get clear and get crystal clear about what's your desired riches. Are we talking about family, friends, relationships, health, wellness, wealth in terms of monetary wealth? Maybe it's you want a more inspired career, maybe all the above. Okay. But how do we get obsessed about that? Like, when was the last time you felt excited, enthusiasm, had a white hot, passionate desire for all of those categories of your life? And are you waking up in the morning and going, wow, this is incredible? Why do I get to have this incredible life? Like, no one can think for you. Nobody can think for you. You have to think those thoughts. You have to feel those feelings. You have to embody those beliefs. And that process starts by finding out what they are, getting obsessed about them, making definitive plans to acquire said riches, whatever it might be, health, wealth, relationships, whatever it is that you're seeking, because we can't do it for you. We don't want to do it for you. You're the hero on your own journey. We're just a bunch of heroes going on a journey as well. And we're inviting you to come along. And none of us recognize failure in ourselves or in you. So come along. Let's go. Let's go have some fun together and build incredible lives together. And it's going to start next week in starting this process of creating definitive plans. And just again, as a preview, I've been working on this myself and reviewing the document that I've created years ago, updating it, etc. But my definitive plans right now are about 35 to 40 pages of detail. Okay. So if you're the character, you're the hero in your own story, I want you to write the book. Right? Write the book of your life. Like, what is it that you want for the next 10, 15, 20 years of your life? Let's get very intentional about the experience that you want to have. And then let's get obsessed about it and execute on those plans. And will it be perfect? Guaranteed not. It's not about perfection. It's progress. That's what we're all doing here together. Right? And everybody listening in. And for those of you that don't know, there's about 8,000 members in our mastermind community, some more engaged than others. But we are obsessed about inspiring other people to live their best lives. That's what I'm doing this all for. Why? Because I want my best life. And I know if I give that to you, then I'm going to get it too. All right. So thank you all for being here. And for everybody who's participating in the comments online, I just want to hear, like, what are your thoughts on this paragraph? What stands out for you? Put it in the comments. And then come and join us next week. We'd love to have you here. Okay. So thank you all. Have an incredible week, and we will see you next time. Take care.